Structuring of time refers to the ordering of events and sequences in a film. The structuring of time involves the way time is expanded, contracted, and structured within a film. The most important aspect of structuring of time is the temporal order, the arrangement of sequences as we are shown them in the film. The temporal order occurs in a linear or non-linear plot progression, meaning in either chronological order, appearing in the story at the time they are actually occurring, or non-linear, where the sequences appear out of chronological order, usually through techniques such as flashbacks and flash forward. In the case of Predestination, the temporal order of the film follows a circular plot progression, where the action starts and ends at the same point, usually starting at the end of the events and working backwards. This is reminiscent of the metaphor of the Ouroboros, which features frequently in Predestination of
the snake that eats its own tail forever and ever. The snake that eats its own tail forever and ever.
Predestination uses flashbacks to depict the story of Jane becoming John, establishing the backstory of the film to the audience. The way in which these scenes are established as flashbacks is the verbal cue given by John in the bar.
So I focus my attention on more important things, like learning how to fight.
As well as a more colourful, lighter tone in the colour of the film during flashbacks, compared with the darker brown tones of the bar. In the case of Scott Pilgrim, the temporal order of the film is presented in a linear plot progression, starting at one point in time, and continuing along chronologically until ending at another point in time. However, Scott Pilgrim does feature flashbacks, which interrupt the linear progression of the film to provide backstory, such as flashbacks of the evil ex-boyfriends.
I was only dating Lucas until the Minotaur walked by. Guess that's not very nice, but I used to be kind of like that.
Temporal duration, another aspect of structuring of time, refers to the time of the film and can be split into two variations: screen time and plot time. Screen time refers to the actual length of the film, Predestination being 97 minutes and Scott Pilgrim 112 minutes. While plot time refers to the period of time covered by the events you actually see on screen, which could be several hours to several years or even decades. In Predestination, the film begins in 1970, with the barkeep being burnt by the explosion, resulting in a skin graft and a new face, and ends in the 1990s with John having the same skin graft and the barkeep becoming the Fizzle Bomber. However, the film doesn't cover only 20 to 30 years. We see flashbacks and travel forwards and backwards in time, such as Jane being brought to the orphanage.
September 13th, 1945.
And the laundromat scenes in which the Fizzle Bomber is killed, occurring in 1975. This means that the plot time, or temporal duration of the film, is actually 50 years, as events occur from 1945 to 1995. However, in Scott Pilgrim, as the plot progression is mostly linear, the plot time occurs over several weeks. Although due to Ramona Flowers' flashbacks of her evil ex-boyfriends throughout her childhood and adolescence, the film's temporal duration is around 12 years, as the flashback of Ramona and her first boyfriend,
Matthew Patel,
occurs when she is in the 7th grade.
Matthew was the only non-white, non-jock boy in town. So the two of us joined forces, and we took them all down. We brawled and scrapped and fought for hours.
Another aspect of structuring of time is temporal frequency, where some scenes may feature multiple times within the story, from a different point of view or revealing another aspect of the scene. For example, the Fizzle Bomb scene is first played at the beginning of the film, with a mysterious figure aiding the disfigured barkeep. The next time this scene appears, we are following from a different point of view, and the mysterious figure is revealed to us as the barkeep himself, who has gone back in time to aid his former self. Another, less confusing example of temporal frequency is the weird incest baby nursery scene, in which we are not given the identity of the kidnapper when we see the baby stolen from her crib. The next time this scene is played is from the perspective of the barkeep, as it is revealed to the audience that he was the one who stole the baby. An example of temporal frequency in Scott Pilgrim is the Chaos Theatre scene, where Scott and Gideon battle for Ramona. After Scott is killed and resurrected after gaining another life in the scene before, the scene is replayed with a faster pace and a more confident Scott, where the outcome changes so that Scott wins. Both films also use other techniques to compress and expand time, such as Predestination's use of a smash cut, turning the setting from autumn to winter in a quick splice, compressing time. Other examples include a match cut of the globe, which transforms baby Jane in her crib looking up at a mobile, to a preteen Jane reading a book in a yard. This compresses the time of the plot and displays to the audience that time has passed in Jane's life. Scott Pilgrim uses wipe transitions to display time passing.
That's sucky.
Ooh, Hannah broke up with Alan, and now she's all into Derek. But then Tamara claims she has zips on Derek.
Oh, yeah.
Such as Scott opening the door in the morning, to him at the library, establishing the context of the scene and the setting as occurring in the morning as time passes to progress the journey. As well as this, Scott Pilgrim employs split screen to convey the sense of simultaneous time passing in two locations. The film also uses ellipses or match cut transitions to show that time has passed while Scott remains distracted as his setting changes around him. This presents to the audience that Scott is not focused and his mind is elsewhere. This shows the audience that time is changing, but Scott's mind is elsewhere.